Good evening, astronerds, and welcome to International Observe the Moon Night. We are a day late, but that is okay because it was raining yesterday, so we couldn't really do much about it. There we go. There's my ticker. So, welcome. I will be hanging out with you for the next 30 minutes or so. It is a little chilly out, and I should have layered up more, but that is okay. I hope you guys are able to enjoy the moon a little bit more where you are. If you are warm inside your homes and you're able to look outside, peek past the window, that's cool. If you are able to get outside, and if you have a telescope or if you have binoculars, you definitely want to check out the moon tonight if it's clear where you are, just because it is finally clear in New York City after a few days of it not so good. So yeah, welcome. If you happen to migrate over from the Amateur Astronomers Association live stream, welcome. If not, that's cool. No judgments here. Unfortunately, with StreamYard, I cannot zoom in on the image. I really wish that I could. I am only allowed to really do that with Instagram. So around 8:35 or 8:40, I'll be hopping on over to Instagram. So if you have an Instagram account, you should follow along, and then we can actually get some real up close, detailed views of the moon, because I can manipulate that screen a little bit better than I would be able to the StreamYard stream. But welcome, it's International Observe the Moon Night. And so this is a celebration of all things moon. If you are interested in the moon, and you wanted to learn about it, how it was formed, if you wanted to observe, if you wanted to do anything in terms of the arts, if you wanted to paint a picture or write a song, that's what this evening is all about. It's all about getting inspired or having the moon inspire you. So I'm glad I was able to set this up tonight. The weather cooperated here in New York City. It's a little chilly, but that's actually a good thing, because that means that, there's no humidity in the air, or there's very little humidity in the air, and you get a nice, cold, crisp view of the moon. So I am going to try to zoom in just a little bit. Now, I won't be able to zoom in on the entire image, but I can give you a partial zoom that will take us into the Tycho crater. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And so again, we're not going to be fully zoomed in on the entire image of the moon, but that's okay. We can just appreciate how densely cratered this portion of the moon is by examining what's called the Terminator Line, which is that line right there at the edge of the moon, where you see all of those shadows from the sunlight appear. This is one of the reasons why I enjoy looking at the moon when it's not full, so that you can see that crater definition and you can see all those caverns and ridges on the Terminator Line, versus when it's full, it's pretty, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it isn't. However, it is very flat looking, and you don't get that crater definition, which is, if you're looking at the moon, that's something that you want. You want to be able to see those craters. And so if you have a telescope, if you have binoculars, I definitely recommend checking out the moon. However, I recommend observing the moon when it is not completely full. Whoop. I tried to zoom in just a little bit more on this, and I unfortunately am not getting the full picture that I wanted, so I do apologize. Let's see. Nope. I don't think I can. I don't think I can zoom in anymore. That's a shame. Are there mountains on the moon? So yes and no. If you, there are craters on the moon. Um, that would make the surface, that top surface, the rim, seem mountainous. So there are no mountains per se, but if you were deep inside a crater, it would certainly feel like there's a mountain in front of you. So it's sort of like the Grand Canyon. If you are at the bottom of that canyon, those north and south rims are going to look mountainous to you, but it's not really a mountain. It's just the edge of that crater line. So today I was kind of goofing off, and we were talking about International Observe the Moon Night, and I was only half kidding, half serious when I said that I would tell I would tell total lies about the moon tonight. So one of the total lies I was going to say, of course, it's made of cheese, and another total lie I was going to say was that it was found. The moon was founded in 1632, which is a complete, falsehood. But I just thought it would be funny. How deep is the deepest crater on the moon? To be honest, I'm not sure. I would actually have to look up that information because some of these craters are incredibly deep. Um, and ranging from, a few dozen miles to probably more than a few dozen miles. So I would absolutely have to take a look and see exactly how deep the deepest crater is on the moon. But the fun fact about craters on the moon, or craters in general, is chances are there's water ice. So there's water ice in the craters on the moon. There's water ice in the craters on Mercury at the poles. And even though Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, you'll still find some water ice as detected by the Messenger mission. um, so if there's a crater, there's a small chance that there's some ice in that crater, which is pretty cool. One of NASA's upcoming missions, the Viper mission, is set to examine some of the craters at the South Pole on the moon to look for volatiles in the crater water ice, which is pretty cool. And that's set to launch 2023. I'm not sure which month yet, but it is going to be it's going to be a rover, and it's going to be sent up by the Falcon Heavy SpaceX rocket. So that's pretty cool, and that's going to be a precursor to the Artemis mission in 2024. And Artemis, I'm pretty excited for two reasons. Yay, we're going back to the moon, but also we're sending our first woman to the moon, and I think that that's incredibly cool and pretty long overdue. And I'm very excited for that whole schedule of events to come, and I'm looking forward to it. It would be great to have a manned a lunar mission in my lifetime. Or crewed, excuse me, a crewed lunar mission in my lifetime. So if you're just joining us, it is International Observe the Moon Night, which means you are legally obligated to go outside and look at the moon. It is the law. So right now we are zoomed in on the Tycho crater, and that is at the 5 o'clock position near the bottom of the moon. So if you have binoculars, or you have really, really good eyes and you live in a nice dark site, you might be able to pick up just a few details of that crater. Let's make sure I don't drop my water bottle this time. So, in addition to International Observe the Moon Night, I will be at a few in-person events for the remainder of the year. Not many because it is getting colder, and I tend to get a little bit bogged down with life around the holiday season. So, if you are interested in joining me for an event, I will be at Lemon Ice King, just across the street from Lemon Ice King in Corona, Queens, on November 12th, I believe. Yes, and that is going to be at 6:30 p.m. And we'll be looking at the moon, and we'll be doing that in person. So if you want to pop on over, treat yourself to a slice of pizza at Corona Pizza and a lemon ice at Lemon Ice King. This is not an endorsement; it's just really good food. And then come on over and check out the moon. I will be with my friends at the Amateur Astronomers Association, and we'll be doing that in addition to a couple of other events throughout the 5 boroughs, but I will be at that one. Also, we have another live stream coming up, and that is on November 19th, and that is for the partial lunar eclipse. So now, eclipses, when they're lunar eclipses, they tend to take all night, of course, as you do when you're a lunar eclipse. And it's going to be like an hours long eclipse. So it's set to start at 1 a.m., but you may not notice too much of a change in the color of the moon until around 3 a.m. because we enter what is called Earth's penumbra. And so you'll see the moon, throughout the evening, and it's going to gradually get darker until about 3 a.m. And that's when you're going to start to see that reddish tint that comes with a lunar eclipse. Now, it's not going to be a full eclipse. We're actually only about, I want to say, somewhere between 90 and 95% viewing the eclipse in full. We won't get a total lunar eclipse until next May, but you'll get about 90 to 95% of this eclipse, and we're going to hit totality around 4 in the morning. So I will start streaming around I want to say around 3, maybe 3:30 a.m. And of course, this is weather permitting, as is everything when you do astronomy. It'll be weather permitting, and you'll be able to tune in. Again, if you are a morning bird or a night owl, you can absolutely tune in and just check out the live stream. Now that is going to be done with, again, my friends at the Amateur Astronomers Association. This will not be done on my page, but this will be done through theirs. And it's also going to be co-hosted, or hosted rather, by timeanddate.com. So if you want to check out the eclipse and maybe it's not clear that night in New York City, you can check out timeanddate.com, and they have telescopes set up pretty much across the globe to view this eclipse anywhere you're able to, within that path of the eclipse. So they'll have scopes trained in Canada, they'll have telescopes trained in California and in Hawaii as well. So if New York City doesn't pan out, you can absolutely check it out in other places across the globe. And that's, again, going to be through Time and Date. So definitely give them a shout and check them out. They're really cool people. And this is just going to be the cap off of the season until we start observing again in January. Not many people know this, and I know that this is not moon information, but we're going to talk about it anyway. For those of you that are familiar with Manhattanhenge, typically this happens around the equinoxes. So you'll have Manhattanhenge happen in May, you'll have Manhattanhenge in July, but not many people know that there is another set of Manhattanhenge happening in December and January. And so I'm going to try, if the weather is cooperative, to get some live views of Manhattanhenge in December or January, depending on what day is most clear. And rather than it being a sunset, this will actually be a sunrise. And so we'll be able to see this really, really amazing image of the sun rising through the Manhattan grid, which I think is super, super cool. And the reason why this happens is because Manhattan, the grid itself is set at true north, and so it faces 29 degrees. and certain points of the year, you'll get the sun rising or setting between certain streets on the grid, which is super, super cool. Um, and again, not many people know about Sunrise Henge. A lot of people know about Sunset Henge. And if you've ever been in New York City, you may see people around the end of May or mid July just all crowding it, in the middle of the street somewhere. And that's because they're trying to get a picture of that sunset. So we're going to do it again. We're just going to do it for sunrise this time. I've personally never witnessed Manhattanhenge sunrise. I've personally never been to the city that early, on purpose. But I will definitely check it out, and hopefully we'll be able to live stream that. And that's also going to be through timeanddate.com too. So just stay tuned. If you visit my website, everything is posted on the website on the calendar, so you don't have to worry about that. You set little reminders for yourself about different astronomy events throughout the city. So yeah, different in-person events, different live stream events. Whatever your flavor is. If you like to stay indoors and maybe just going outside is just not for you, that's okay. I've got you covered. So if you are just tuning in, we are looking at the moon right now because it is International Observe the Moon Night. Well, technically, International Observe the Moon Night was last night. However, it did rain last night, so this is the rain date. So this is an event that was started by NASA's Night Sky Network about 10 years ago, and it's just supposed to be an evening where we appreciate the moon, and however the moon moves you. If it's something that'll inspire you to just gaze up at the sky, the night sky. If it's something that you want to share with a loved one, or the person you don't love, that's fine too. You definitely want to share the moon with as many people as possible. So I recommend it, 10 out of 10. And if you have a telescope, even better. So if you're able to get outside and you're in New York City right now, specifically if you are in Queens, New York right now, we've got some pretty good night sky right now. And it was kind of touch and go earlier this afternoon. But I'm happy that it cleared up. So yay, that's good. So now I am going to straighten this image out. So we're going to say goodbye to the Tycho crater for just a little while. And what we're going to do instead, and I really hope that this works, and I don't think it will, but we're going to try anyway, because I'm all about giving it a try. We're going to see if we are able to see Jupiter tonight. And I say that we're going to try to see Jupiter because Jupiter is out and it's high in the night sky, and it looks great and it's nice and clear. I can see it. However, I don't know if I'll be able to pick it up on the live stream. So we'll see if we can get it. What do you know? Ha! Check it out. So now let's see if we can zoom in, because it's not a very good image. But let's see if we can get it. Oh, it just drifted out of view. So you, on your screens, out there in internet land, should start to see a very fuzzy, kind of yellowish, orangish dot on your screen. Whoop. And that's if I stop moving the remote around. And in addition to that little dot, you should see 4 other little dots accompanying it, depending on how you're able to resolve the image on your screen. When I was zoomed out a little bit more, you could kind of make them out. You can sort of make them out if I zoom out like that. So yes, that small dot there on the screen is the largest planet in our solar system. That is Jupiter. Jupiter is a gas giant, and I like to call it the vacuum cleaner of the solar system because things that tend to migrate in from the Oort cloud tend to get eaten up by Jupiter. Jupiter protects us from many, many impacts. And that's, good looking out. Jupiter is massive. You can fit, I believe, 11 Earths inside of Jupiter. I think the total moon count right now is 78 or 79 moons. Um, and, even though it's International Observe the Moon Night and sometimes the focus is our own moon, who's to say we can't look at Jupiter's moons? So if you are able to resolve it on your screen, you should see its four largest moons, which would be Europa, Io, Callista, and Ganymede. And those, of course, were the moons that were first spotted by Galileo, which is why they're called Galilean moons. If you have a telescope, and not even a big telescope, you can see this with no problem in New York City. And that's something I love to impart on people, that you don't need fancy equipment or even high-powered equipment to see Jupiter or Saturn or Venus or anything like that. You can do this with something really small and lightweight and portable. And depending on where you are, and I am in central Queens, just as an example, under an incredibly bright moon, I can resolve Jupiter and Saturn with no issues. So, it just depends on if you like a challenge. If you're really into this, you get a telescope, and you'll learn how to do it. And once you do, it's so much fun. So it's International Observe the Moon Night, but I did want to take a look at Jupiter just for a quick second. And I can sort of make out the moons here on my screen, and I hope you can as well at home. But there you go. There's Jupiter and some of its moons. And now let's see, because we are visiting our gas giant friends, let's see if we are able to get on over to Saturn. Now, if we can get on over to Saturn, I will be very, very pleased. But let's see if we can. Okay, so we got Saturn, but it's very, very tiny. So let's see if we can clear some of that up. We'll zoom in as much as we can because it is StreamYard, and I am pretty limited, unfortunately, to how much I'm allowed to zoom in on StreamYard. Hopefully soon that'll change. So that's as zoomed in as I can make it. And now, right now, because it is International Observe the Moon Night, we are going to talk a little bit about Saturn and Saturn's moons. So Saturn currently holds the reigning title for champion. Saturn has about 82 moons, and that was actually recently confirmed, as recent as I believe just last year. And so it has a massive amount of moons now, and it also has a ring to boot. So, good for you, Saturn. We're all very proud of you. Saturn is a fun and interesting planet, not just because of its rings, but because Saturn has very little density. So even though it's the second largest planet in the solar system, so it's only second to Jupiter, and Jupiter is a gas giant as well as Saturn. It has very little density, meaning that if you were to get Saturn and place it into a glass of water large enough to support it, it would float because it has very little density. So that's just a fun fact about Saturn. actually going to make this a little bit more zoomed in. I'm not sure if you can make out that kind of oval shape. That oval shape would be the rings. And this is actually, I'm cheating, I'm using a zoom eyepiece. So this is just as zoomed in as I can make it with StreamYard, unfortunately. But I am going to hop on over to Instagram Live very shortly, where I have just a little bit more control over how I can maneuver the screen and how I can zoom in. I can kind of pinch and zoom on the screen. So if you decide to hop on over to Instagram Live, I'll be there just around 8:40 p.m. After I take a quick little break to warm up because it is very cold outside tonight, or it's a little chilly for me rather. But yeah, so that is Saturn for the evening. So now, just to kind of cap things back off, I did want to go back to our moon because it is moon night technically. And just like that, appearing right in view. Isn't that lovely? You get a great view of the Copernicus crater. You got a great view of Tycho. You have amazing views, and that you can pretty much get every night, even with naked eye. But those gray deposits, those gray areas, that's all called the mare or the seas. And so, if you think back to some of the Apollo missions, they landed in what you would call the Sea of Tranquility. So that's just a mare. It's the Sea of Tranquility or the Mare of Tranquility, and mare is Latin for sea. So you can see all of that if you were just to go outside and look straight up. You can catch all that gray detail. Sometimes people call it the man on the moon, or they say you can see a face, or in some cultures you can see a rabbit. I never actually see the man. It's been pointed out to me so many times, but I've never actually seen the man on the moon. I can sort of see the rabbit, but I can't see the man. And it doesn't matter how many times people point it out to me. I always, I just say I have no idea what you're talking about. It's just the moon to me. But yeah, so that's that. Those gray spots, what you would call the man on the moon, are the mare on the moon, and they're amazing mineral rich deposits from old lava basins from when the moon was first forming. So those are always super cool to look at and examine. And if you look into, I believe it was the Apollo 17 mission, they brought back a ton of rocks from the moon, some of which were in those areas that they were able to scoop up and bring back to Earth to analyze, and they're still being analyzed to this day. So the last lunar mission was 1972, and it is 2021, and we are still looking at moon data. So that's some food for thought there. All right. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube Live. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the live stream, and feel free to give me a follow on social media if you'd like. If you ever want to pop into an in-person event, definitely, by all means. I have some in-person events in Queens coming up on my calendar. And then, of course, we have our partial lunar eclipse live stream happening on November 19th. And then it's just all points forward after that. So thank you so much for tuning in, and keep looking up.